All right, we are live, yeah? All right, welcome everyone to the Seattle Restored info session for our application process that's happening right now. We're just gonna wait a little bit while people trickle into the session. Just give us one more minute, and then we'll kind of go through everything. This is gonna be a great opportunity for you to sort of get the whole logistics of Seattle Restored, from history to the application you're actually trying to get into, and then just know a little bit more history about the organization, and be able to ask any sort of questions you need to at this time. So definitely save your questions as we're going along. So yeah, as you see here, as we move through this presentation, just know that, again, our staff is not going to be able to hear you while we're going through everything. And so just make sure you put everything in the chat. We got two awesome folks who are going to introduce themselves, who are going to be keeping track of the chat and all of your questions that you have throughout the presentation, to make sure that we can, make sure we get everyone's questions answered in this one session. And then if not, definitely we'll have some time to address those when we can. Through email or whatever the case is. I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Gabriel Bella Lawrence Diaz. I'm the program director at Shunpike, here with Seattle Restored. And I'll pass it to the rest of my team to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Sami Amish. I am a program manager for Seattle Restored and Shunpike. I've been working on Seattle Restored now for 2 years.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mia Stevenson. I work with Seattle Restored as well on the Seattle Good Business Network team, and I've been with the program for about 1.5 years.
Hi, y'all. My name's Andrea Porter. I'm the program director of Seattle Restored with the Seattle Good Business Network team. So today here we've got the overview of our session agenda. We'll go through the program overview, the participant overview, the artist track, the entrepreneur track, and then we'll also have a time to have everyone ask questions, and we'll be answering those questions. And then we'll talk to some previous participants. Again, if you have any questions right now, feel free to start populating them in chat, and we will be answering them throughout the session. And then also some will be answered at the end if they're a little more detailed questions. So to start, we just wanted to give you an overview of the partner organizations. You heard us all say our roles and what organization we're with. So there's 3 organizations that work on Seattle Restored: City of Seattle Office of Economic Development and Seattle Good Business Network. And so myself and Mia are here representing Seattle Good Business Network tonight. And then Gabriel, you can speak about Shunpike. Oh, we can't hear you, Gabriel.
All right, Shunpike is a nonprofit arts organization that does fiscal sponsorship. We do arts business support, and mostly we do a lot of community programs. So ACES, outside of this, some of you have heard of. We have our storefronts, our 2NU program, and so with Seattle Restored, this is sort of our collaborative program with, like Andrea said, with Seattle Good Business Network and Office of Economic Development.
Thanks. And then Seattle Good Business Network is a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is to connect and inspire people to buy, produce, and invest locally, so everyone has a meaningful stake in our local economy. So we just wanted to give you the big picture. Seattle Restored works to revitalize Seattle's neighborhoods by calling on local artists and entrepreneurs to activate empty storefronts. Together, we create vibrant and engaging streetscapes that boost the local economy. And over here, you can see a picture of one of our previous Seattle Restored locations. We've got lots of beautiful photos we'll be showing you tonight. And so here's a history of Seattle Restored. We started in March of 2022 with our pilot phase of Seattle Restored, and we activated 35 vacant storefronts throughout downtown. In November of 2022, we started the second phase of Seattle Restored, and we continued the program and increased its reach. By the end of phase 2 in March of 2024, we had activated 52 vacant storefronts throughout the city. And now we are in phase 3 of Seattle Restored, and we have just reopened our application process. Opened on May 1st and will close on May 30th at 8 p.m. We'll say that a couple times today, May 30th by 8 p.m. And then we did want everyone to know tonight that while Seattle Restored started in downtown, we do have plans to expand into a new neighborhood this year as well. So you should also be aware of that expansion this year. Oop, my apologies, I went the wrong way.
All right, so getting started with why you should be interested in participating. You would have access to a low or no cost space, depending on which pathway you opt in for. You would be included in a multimedia campaign for marketing that we do across the city. This includes a digital passport program, a lot of earned and paid media through digital, print, radio, and public transit ads. So we really do a lot of work to drive traffic to all of our locations and make sure that all of our pop-ups and venues are being visited as much as possible, both by Seattle residents and tourists. We would also offer a professional photography session. So these are photos that we would use during your participation period to promote your space. And then you would have access to these photos as well at the end to use for yourself. This is a great opportunity to access new audiences, test your retail readiness in a space, and see, if this is a direction that you would like to take for your business or your entrepreneurship or your artistic practice. We also have some technical support throughout the course of your participation. So this is going to take kind of various forms, and we offer different educational events and resources as well.
Regarding our eligibility, so first, you will not be eligible to participate in Seattle Restored if any of those following applies. So if you have received over $20,000 in funding from the City of Seattle Office of Economic Development between the years of 2022 and 2024, you will not be eligible to participate. If you are unsure, you can always email us. If you've participated in other programs of the city and you're really not sure, please email us and we can figure that out. You must also be 18 years old or older to participate in Seattle Restored. If you currently you can participate if you have no brick and mortar locations or if you have one operating business location. But if you have 2 or more locations, you will not be eligible to apply for Seattle Restored. This does not include pop-ups, markets, or production facilities, of course. Also, if you are a startup business, you may be eligible to participate in Seattle Restored, but we will review that on a case-by-case basis. We will ask that the vision in your application is clear and that you at least have a bit of business experience with us. Also, we require that you get a City of Seattle business license and a Washington State UBI during your participation with Seattle Restored. So we encourage you. So if you are selected with Seattle Restored and you do not have those, please get one as soon as you can. And if you already have both of them, that's great as well.
All right, and then just a couple of notes. So we understand that many of you in this session tonight might have applied previously to Seattle Restored, and we just wanted to let you know we understand that the waiting period last time was quite long and pretty frustrating for a lot of you. So we are really working hard to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future. We're planning, a more specific waitlist system if a waitlist is necessary, trying to notify you as soon as possible so that you're not, waiting indefinitely for, more than several months to find out if you have a space. And, we appreciate all of you who are so patient and understood that as a brand new program, we're working through some hiccups and figuring it out as we go. So thank you again for your patience, and we look forward to hopefully working with you again in the future. Sorry, we had a couple of other notes, sorry, on the applications. So we also just wanted to note there will be no rollovers from the previous shortlisted applicants. So if you did apply and were accepted in the past but not placed in a space, then we unfortunately will not be able to support you through that application. You will need to apply again. We also plan to notify everybody by July 19th, whether you were accepted or not. We don't have an exact date yet for when we'll release our next round of applications, but it should be around late summer or fall. As Andrea mentioned, you'll hear this date multiple times, but our closing date is May 30th at 8 p.m. So please be sure and get your applications in on time. We will not consider any late applications.
Regarding our pathways, so for the window art installations, we will be accepting 16 participants. For the art residencies, we'll be accepting 12, the 2-month pop-up 15, and the long-term business 5. So the window, just briefly, the window art installation is made for emerging and established visual artists that want to exhibit their art in the city from from the window of a street-facing empty space. The artist residency, you will be able to work in that space and also sell your art. Usually we would have like 3 to 4 artists per space to share. And maybe Mia, do you want to talk about the 2-month pop-up and long-term business?
Sure, yeah. The 2-month pop-ups are geared towards businesses and services, so you would be open for retail hours. Seattle Restored will host a space with some limited fixtures, and then you would have a 2-month pop-up. We'll also be working with a few long-term businesses. These are folks who are ready to sign a 3 or more year lease directly with the property. Seattle Restored will offer some funding and technical support for this process, and we'll get into a little bit more detail about all these pathways just shortly.
So to submit an application, you will have to go directly to our website, so seattlerestore.org. You will see an apply button on the top right corner. Just click on it. Then you will be redirected to our application page. Please read thoroughly the entire application page because you will find a lot of information that will be super useful for you while you complete the information that is required from you during the application. Then you can click on the pathway at the bottom of the page. You can click on the pathway that interests you. So if you're looking for an art installation, just click on that and you'll be redirected to the art installation application, etc., and so on. And please finish your application before May 30, not May 31st, May 30, 8 p.m. Pacific time, because we will not be accepting any late application past that deadline. So regarding the timeline, so yeah, as I said previously, the application will be closed May 30th at 8 p.m. The panel review will be reviewing all the applications in June 2024, and they will be also scoring those applications. This panel review is made of several past participants or people that are known around the city to have strong businesses or strong art presence, etc., etc. In July, and precisely on July 19th or before that, we will notify all applicants, on the status of their application, and we hope to start placing participants either late July, in August and September for their various pathways. And the start date may vary depending on the property managers and whenever we secure the spaces.
All right, so it's been laid out. We got 4 different tracks, and I wanna sort of go over our first 2 tracks. But before that, we had a couple of questions that came in from just before the info session that I just wanted to talk about that are more general questions. And one of them were if you can apply to these art installations as a group. And the answer is yes. That just looks like you're going to be splitting that stipend. It's just like sort of that stipend is for that one location, right? We encourage artists of all stages of their career to be applying, right? There's no, you need to be at a certain level of your art. This is really open to all levels of art here. Excuse me. This is definitely one that you can see in different locations. And so we're going to start talking about like, there's different types of art that make sense for some of our windows, but just know that there's all types of art that you can apply for the art installation, whether it's like 3D, we have spaces for, whether it's 2D, whether it's big. There's some windows that folks have been collaging and sort of creating ways to just really utilize the space in those windows. Here on the slide, you see the duration of the art installations are for 6 months. Your stipend is 1,500. And so just knowing that that's going to be the span of it. And like was mentioned earlier, some of these art installations are going to be focused downtown, and then some of them might be in our also like in our new expanded location. When it comes to our residencies, we have another duration of 6 months, same as the art installations, but the residency is going to be more collaborative, right? You're in a space with other artists. Not only are you making art, but you're able to actually sell the art as well. So we support, there's some funding there to support like building out a nice like little lounge area as you walk in to kind of make it feel like an actual like established space. And so there's been one on Fifth Avenue in the past. And again, this is one of our newer programs here within this program that is going to be pretty exciting this year.
So if you are selected to participate as an artist within Seattle Restored, like whether you're an artist in residency or you have an art installation with us, you will get a few other things that we provide to our participants and that we've been also provided to our past participants. So one of the first one is a vinyl decal and A-frame. So vinyl decal for both art installations and art residencies, and an A-frame for art residencies. So the vinyl decal, you will have your name on it, and you with the logos of the program and the partners that are running this program. You will also be able to have a QR code on that vinyl that will redirect to the general website of the program. You will also benefit from a photo shoot with our photographer. We will be using those photos for marketing purposes, but you will also, of course, be provided those photos, and you can use them for your portfolio or any ways really you want. And this is at no cost. This is Seattle Restored will pay for that. You will also get insurance, whether you're an artist in residency or in the art installation. And by insurance, I mean that Seattle Restored holds the general liability cost. So we do not hold the insurance, like personal insurance or theft insurance. We do recommend you to hold theft insurance because who knows? And we work with some insurance carriers that are specialized in the arts that we can recommend to you once you are selected to our program. You will also benefit from all our marketing and social media push because although we promote the program at large, everyone benefit from us promoting the program at large, I would say. And we also offer sometimes takeovers of our Instagram stories for a day. If you're curious about what it looks like, you can go on our Instagram page and there's a few examples of artists taking over our Instagram. You will also benefit from the Passport program, which redirects people to your locations. Like they will have to scan a QR code to check the fact that they saw your art installation or that they entered the art residency. And you will also be able to receive training courses through the ABC program of the Office of Economic Development, which provides 10 hours of free consultation in marketing, bookkeeping, accounting, and so on and so forth. Regarding requirements, so I'm gonna start with the artist residency. So again, Seattle Restored holds the general liability insurance of the space where you are, but you are responsible to hold your own renter's insurance / theft insurance. You will be required to have a City of Seattle business license. We ask also that you complete a pre-survey and post-survey, and that you sign our contract, that you provide a W-9, and that you provide also your monthly sales. Your storefront or your residency must be open for a minimum of 24 hours a week. We require that you are there for a minimum of 24 hours a week. And sometimes it could depend on when the landlord or property manager asks you to be open. Some of them ask to be open during business hours or when the footwork is really present. So we could ask you to be open during those hours. And we ask also that you create and maintain a participant profile page on the Seattle Restored website. And that you, when you promote, for example, your art installation or you're present at the art residency, that you tag us, because we are able also to reshare that. And, like we could all benefit from cross promotion, basically. What I can add also for the art installation is that you do not need renters or property insurance, but I strongly encourage you to still get theft insurance just in case. You will also be able to participate in artwork, so you can talk about your art to people basically, and we will try to hold that like twice a semester, so maybe towards the beginning of your installation and towards the ends of your installation. And then you don't have to be present at your art installation for 24 hours because we just put your art installation there. But otherwise, we do require also art installations to have a City of Seattle business license, complete all the surveys and documents that we ask you to complete, create a participant profile on our website, and promote your participation with us on social media.
All right. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the entrepreneur track. So here's the pop-up track. So we have pop-ups for a 2-month duration. And so Seattle Restore will hold the lease on a space. So you'll have 2 months, you'll have 2 weeks for setup and breakdown. So it's essentially 2.5 months period. And there is no opportunity for extension on that. It's really, we're having a space and we're rotating different pop-ups through that space on an every 2-month basis. We will hold the lease on the space, we'll provide basic shop fixtures. So there's not a lot of setup that you'll need to do when you come into the space. We really want you to have the opportunity to focus on your business and what it is doing in that space and marketing it as a pop-up rather than worrying about the extensive setup that you would need to do to get into a space. The participation stipend is $2,000, and then tenant improvement funds is $500. So the $500 could go to things like special signage. If you have a particular display rack you want to get that isn't provided by the store already. So the additional $500, we do recognize there are some things you will need that would be specific to your business that might not be in the space when you first get in there. Again, we'll hold general liability coverage, but we encourage you to get theft insurance. And we will also be providing technical assistance throughout the program. An example could be how do you market a pop-up compared to how you might market your business overall on an ongoing basis.
All right, and then we're also, like I said earlier, going to be working with a few long-term businesses. So once again, these are any folks, business or entrepreneurs who are ready to take on a lease on their own and sign directly with the property. This would need to be for 3 years minimum. So again, in this case, the participant holds the lease. Seattle Restored will provide rent support of up to $24,000 over 2 years. This will be tiered down, so you're paying more and more of the rent yourself over those 2 years. We also offer up to $15,000 initially for tenant improvements when you first access the space. So this will be dependent on what the space needs and requirements are when you first move in. We also provide quite a bit of technical assistance. So there's some coaching that will be involved. There will be a peer cohort group that you'll be able to work with just to get kind of mutual support, kind of, brainstorming, that kind of thing. And, obviously, you will be part of Seattle Restored's significant marketing campaigns as well. Sammy mentioned our passport program. So this applies to both the artist and entrepreneurial pathways. All of you in those positions will be part of the passport program. So we do a lot of marketing and a lot of outreach to direct people to your spaces. And then, because this is such a long-term process, we'll have a significant relationship with you over that time. We're going to do our best to offer you the support that you need as you get into the space and get it ready to open.
And here again is business toolkit. So some of the benefits that are provided as a participant. We provide the vinyl decal that Sammy was talking about. Again, this has a QR code that directs back to the Seattle Restored website and your individual profile page. There's an A-frame that we provide that has a chalkboard insert. So it is branded Seattle Restored, but you're able to note special events coming up. And you're allowed to keep that A-frame afterwards as well as you continue on with your business. Participation photo shoot, again, what Sammy mentioned, that we have a professional photographer come out to photograph you in your space, and you're able to use those photos, and we use them as well for our marketing. And all the photos you're seeing in the presentation are from past participants. Insurance, we hold liability insurance for both the pop-ups. The long-term does secure their own liability insurance. And then again, we encourage people to get their own theft insurance. Marketing and social media, we really do understand that marketing can be a significant hurdle for businesses and artists. So we, again, have a robust marketing and social media campaign and newsletters to accompany this program. The peer cohort business mentorship group, we really feel like it's valuable to be able to talk to other businesses going through the same opportunity together. So it's really about learning from each other, finding resources through each other, supporting each other. We also like the idea of clustering businesses and arts in neighborhoods together. So not only does that help with marketing, but it also helps you as businesses and artists talk to each other. So if you're all within a block of each other, you can really direct people to other Seattle Restored venues and participants. So we really want you to know each other as well as us as the program managers and leads. And again, we connect you to training courses through the Office of Economic Development. They have a really robust series of opportunities for artists and entrepreneurs. So we try to connect you to as many other outside resources beyond Seattle Restored as well.
All right, so for the business requirements, we'll go through both the pop-ups and the long-term businesses. As we said, we will hold the insurance for the pop-ups. It is strongly recommended that you get theft insurance. As we said earlier, you will need to have a City of Seattle business license and a Washington State UBI. Because our program is funded in large part with the City of Seattle, we do need to collect a lot of information to report back to them in order to prove that this program is viable and needs to continue. So we will be asking every participant for a pre-activation survey, where we kind of get a baseline of what your business is like before you participate. And then we'll collect sales numbers over the course of your participation. These are not reported individually to the city, but we aggregate all of them during the year and present them as one bulk number. Once you are finished with your activation or your participation period with Seattle Restored, we'll collect a final sales report as well as a closing survey just to gauge your experience. So we're collecting, you know, both qualitative and quantitative data here. We want to know what were some of the pain points for you. We also want to see kind of the hard numbers and was this a financially successful program for you? With the pop-ups, we will help you to host a launch party to celebrate the opening of your space. We would also require that you are open for a minimum of 24 hours per week and at least 4 days per week. You know, this is in part because our program is designed to activate spaces that have been sitting vacant for a long time and re-engage our retail corridors. It's also in your best interest, right? If you are a retail space, to be open as much as possible to generate interest and get those audiences coming in. We will have monthly check-ins with your Seattle Restored program managers. We ask that you create a profile page on the Seattle Restored website. The QR codes on those window vinyls that we've been talking about will direct back to the Seattle Restored website. So this is where any visitors or people who are curious about them will get more information about you. And we will ask that you maintain that profile page over the course of your participation as accurate as possible. Social media and participation in displaying Seattle Restored branded information. Once again, there's the window cling. We'll provide you with some Seattle Restored informational postcards to have on hand. We also ask that you tag Seattle Restored, including our partner organizations, OED, Shunpike, and Seattle Good Business Network, with, you know, any events that are happening in your space. We have a media toolkit that will offer all of our participants with a little bit more of the specifics on how you can participate and how you can stay engaged. But like Sammy said earlier, it's for everyone's mutual benefit. We are relying on your networks as much as you're relying on ours to cross-promote and make sure that we're getting as much visibility into this program as possible. So those will all be requirements for both the pop-ups and the long-term businesses. And then in addition to those, our long-term business owners and entrepreneurs will be required to hold their own general liability insurance. They will also be signing and upholding the lease agreement. So in the case of the pop-up, you're not worried about rent. Seattle Restored is paying the rent on the space for you. In the case of a long-term business, you would be paying the rent directly to the landlord, and that is up to you to manage and stay on top of.
And then here we just wanted to go through the selection criteria and the review process for all the applications. So every application will be reviewed by a diverse community panel, and they will score the applications based on the below criteria. So is it compelling? Is the proposal ready? Does it meet our equity needs? And does the proposal demonstrate experience? So we realize those can feel broad, but we did want you to have those 4 pieces to understand what the community panel looks at when they're reviewing all applications. And then after the community panel makes their selection, applicants will move forward in the following ways. Art residencies, pop-ups, and long-term lease applicants will move on to a Zoom interview. It'll be approximately 20-25 minute interview where we're just going to ask a little more information about your proposal. And then for long-term lease applicants, there is a financial review by a partner organization called Grow America. So they're really looking at your P&L statements, your future forecasting to understand if you're really ready for this long-term lease opportunity. And then again, we will notify all applicants by July 19th, 2024 of your status. So at that time, we might say, it's not the right fit for this program, or we're going to move you on to the interview, or for the art installations, we're ready to go and we want to start to place you. And again, we just want to remind people that due to the fluidity of this program, there will be a wait list, but we are going to make a very concerted effort to be clear around our communication around what does it mean if you're placed on a wait list and what is the timeline around that wait list. And now we are going to move on to our question and answer portion of the night. And we will be stopping this at 6:45, just so everyone is aware of that. And then we'll be asking our past participants to join us, and they can also answer individual questions about how it was to participate in the program. Anything that we don't address tonight, you are more than welcome to send an email directly to seattlerestored@gmail.com, and we will respond to emails. So we just know there'll be a lot of questions and we might not be able to address them all tonight, but we will definitely follow up with anyone that asks a question. But we do ask you, if the question is not answered here, please email us so we can make sure we're capturing all those questions. And Vanessa and Sabrina are gonna read out questions to us and we will answer all these questions.
Okay, and you all can continue to drop questions in the chat. Sabrina will answer some of them in writing, and I'll start reading some out. So we received a question that says, if I already applied for the pop-up option, would it be helpful to also submit a letter of support?
We're not going to be reviewing letters of support for a pop-up application. So I'm gonna say no, because I think we want every applicant to have the same opportunity and have the same materials reviewed by every applicant. So it will not help to submit a letter of support.
Right, and then another retail question for pop-ups and long-term business. Can part of the business have a bar or serve alcohol?
Provided you have all the proper licensing and permitting, there's no, we are not gonna limit businesses to be unable to serve alcohol, but you will have to ensure that you have all proper licenses and permits in place. And I will say that food and beverage based businesses are a little bit more challenging. Those licenses and permits do take quite a bit of time, a little bit more than traditional retail. So that's something that you want to be fully prepared to do or have already started the process on by the time you're applying.
And I will say that it's not applicable for the pop-ups because we won't have the license for the pop-up venue for alcohol. So it would only apply to a long-term applicant to be able to serve alcohol.
Are the artist residencies available to dance and movement-based artists?
I can answer that one. They're not, but we do have at Shunpike a separate program called 2NU that is perfect for performing artists looking for space in that capacity. So I would suggest that you just check out our 2NU program through Shunpike.
We received a question asking if photography would be an acceptable medium for the artist tracks for both residencies or a pop-up.
Photography, I can see as part of the residency for sure. I'll let Andrea speak to the pop-up if photography, but with the residency specifically, I would see the participant wanting to like use the space as a photography studio as well as wanting to be selling their prints within the residency.
Did they ask about a pop-up or was it about, sorry, I didn't hear the question. Vanessa, can you repeat it?
They were asking if photography would be an acceptable medium for either a pop-up space. I'm
Oh.
not sure if they might have meant art installation too, so maybe we could address that as well.
So yes, for art installation, it's Yep, that's a good one. And then pop-up, yes, that would be fine as well, but it obviously has to have a retail component. And the same applies for an artist residency. The artist residency, you'd have more of an ability to use the space to do your photography work, but you do also have to have a component to sell it. Whereas a pop-up is a little more just focused on the retail aspect, and it doesn't have the space necessarily or capacity to have basically a studio on site. It's more of a retail facing opportunity.
So we would, of course, if you are looking to just exhibit your prints of the photos, we would also welcome you to apply for the art installation, for sure. If you're only looking to put your prints, if you're looking at to have also a photo studio and sell your prints, then the art residency might be a good way to do that.
One more note, we can't have any intense chemical substances. So for the residency or like photo studio setup, you wouldn't be able to turn anything into a dark room, if that's part of your question.
And we might have addressed it, but you can apply in multiple pathways, but you'll only be accepted for one pathway. So if you think you have different concepts that you would like to apply in different pathways, that's fine. But we do ask that you think about each pathway and apply based on the pathway. So we don't want to see three of the same exact submissions for 3 different pathways. Like, please consider the pathways and then apply appropriately based on the pathway.
Are Seattle Restored applications open for nonprofits, specifically the long-term support?
Yes, you can apply for the long-term lease support as a nonprofit. And this will be said again, but particularly for the long-term leases, this is a very significant application and reviewing process. So everything will be examined on a case-by-case basis, depending on history of ownership and retail experience.
And we contract others to be at the store during open hours.
Yes, that's fine for you to have employees and have contract employees. We'll just want to ensure that any policies that you have in place for employees are following labor and industry standards. So if you're very new to having employees, we'll just want to make sure you're connected to some resources to work with employees.
Let's see, can the 2-month pop-up be used as an artist gallery?
Yeah, definitely. As long as you meet the hourly requirement of being available 24 hours per week and 4 hours per day minimum. If you are, either a for or nonprofit gallery space, that is definitely something that is applicable to the pop-up track.
And I guess I'll just reiterate that items should be for sale. There is a component of this program that each pathway pieces must be available for sale. So even the art installations in the window, there should be a pathway for people to be able to purchase either the artwork they're seeing or maybe a print of the artwork they're seeing. So we do, this program is about economic development in the city of Seattle. So all pathways should have some economic component to them.
Are we able to see possible venues for pop-ups?
As of right now, we don't have the spaces confirmed. We're working on signing leases with them. Once we have them for sure set in stone, then we can share photos and imagery. We also don't have any fixtures in place at the moment, but we are on track to have everything ready to go by July. So once you are selected as a participant, you'll be able to see the space ahead of time.
What is the best track for a visual art teaching space?
I guess it depends. Like you could apply for a residency or a pop-up depending on the results that you want to have. So, what you are trying also to achieve. So, if you are trying to create your own art into a space, then I would redirect you to a residency and um, just host events during your residency with the approval of your fellow artists sharing the space with you. But if your sole purpose is only to teach art and to only have art classes, then like that's your business model, then I would say that you might be eligible for a pop-up. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mia, Andrea.
Yeah, that's right. I think um just to note again the hours of operation. So 24 hours per week for 4 days over the course of 4 days. So if you're only teaching one class per day for 2 hours per day, then you would also have to find a pathway to be open for the remaining hours. And maybe that's a retail component of your pop-up. But you will have, if you're only teaching classes, you would need to consider, can you do 24 hours of classes in a week, or can you have some other retail component that allows you to be open those 24 hours?
How far apart are the application cycles approximately?
They're going to be pretty close. Like we said earlier, we don't have the exact dates determined yet for our next cycle, but it will follow pretty closely on the heels of when we announce the participants from this application cycle. So if we're letting folks know by the middle of July, I would anticipate the next round of applications opening either in August or September.
Let's see. Would an event venue qualify for the long-term lease?
Yes, it will. Again, it's just about ensuring that you're open for the number of hours that are required to activate the space.
Yeah, so for example, we had a venue as one of our past participants, and the way that they kept their space kind of active and open outside of their one-off events was by hosting art walk events. So they were located in Belltown and participated in the Belltown Art Walk. They had, several events that they would host and open to the public as well.
Can we host teaching workshops in addition to the art practice in the residency space?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, Vanessa.
Can we host teaching workshops in addition to the art practice in the residency space?
Yes. Again, that would be at your discretion and with the approval of your fellow artists. But yes, you are more than welcome to host workshops. We would also ask you to please let your program manager know that you are also hosting a workshop, just so we can be aware and also notify property manager or landlords if you also think of being open late for that workshop, for example. Because sometimes sub-buildings have an HOA and we want to make sure that everything is compliant with that.
For the art installations, do the final pieces need to be part of the application?
Yes, they would, because we are selecting you on your project proposal or the pieces that you are going to exhibit, so they need to be done by the time that we review your application, because we are selecting you on those spaces that you wish to exhibit.
If we get approved for a pop-up, what will be the approximate date that we will have the space? And then a follow-up question of can we use a special occasion permit to serve alcohol for the pop-up?
Yeah, as long as you make sure to read the special occasion pop-up permit rules very closely, there's a little bit of kind of I guess fussiness on whether it's a public event, who you invite. I don't recall those details off the top of my head, but you just want to make sure that you're following the rules according to the Liquor Control Board. And then as far as timeline goes, we are hoping for an August open for the first round of pop-ups.
How much business experience is needed for a pop-up?
We haven't set a specific amount of time. We just want to see that you have had some experience selling to the public. So it could be markets, it could be online, it could be other pop-up opportunities. It's just to show that you have that business experience. So it's not hard and fast rules about how much time per se. It's just, can you demonstrate that you have that experience and you feel like you have enough inventory and experience to take this opportunity and really run with it.
Could the artist residency pathway work for an art production company that focuses on small salon type shows and gatherings highlighting different Seattle artists and performers?
Not really. I think I would encourage you to apply maybe for the long-term business application, just because the artist residency is mainly, except if you're alone. No, because yeah, the artist residency is mainly made for individual artists that wish to have a bigger space to be able to create like art and also sell that art. So it seems like it is a collective of artists, and we do not accept collective of artists for artist residencies. We only accept individual artists.
If you are not selected, will you be given any feedback to support future applications?
I think we can do that on a case-by-case basis. So if you reach out after Seattle Restored and say, you know, can you give me some feedback on improving my application? We're happy to do that, but we won't be doing it for every individual applicant. I think, you know, if I can go back to the slides and show how many spots there are per track, but we anticipate 400 to 500 applications. So we're just not able to give individual feedback for every application. So there's that page again, just so people can see how many people will be accepted for each different pathway. And I'll say also, this is the pathway. The number of applicants will approve all the way through the end of this year and into early 2025. So we don't know exactly how many people we will be selecting for this round of applications, but these numbers will fulfill all throughout the year. So it is very possible. Well, it will happen that not all of these will be filled through this application cycle.
There is a question in the art installation application which says, what local networks, communities, and collaborators are you involved with? Can you please elaborate on the same?
Yeah, so here we're just kind of looking to see what your network in Seattle is like, what kind of community support you have for your business. This is a chance for you to kind of demonstrate the impact that your business might have or your artistic practice might have if you were to have a Seattle Restored space made available to you. You know, as we mentioned earlier, cross promotion is really important way that we reach new audiences for Seattle Restored and for promoting you as participants. So getting a sense of what, you know, maybe community organizations you're involved with. For example, are you part of a business alliance in the neighborhood that you work out of? You know, have you done past pop-ups with, say, you know, Urban Craft Uprising or Renegade or some of the smaller local markets? Have you vended at Pike Place Market? Getting an understanding of the communities that you participate in will really help us get a better sense of you as an artist or business owner, what networks you might introduce us to, and understand, you know, what kind of support we might need to offer you as a participant in our program.
Could we create more artwork for the art installation after we get approved with the pieces we already submitted?
It will be depending on the landlord's will. So we do select a participant based on the pieces, I mean, on the general application that is submitted, plus also the pieces that is submitted into their application. So if you're willing to create more art, like, and rotate your art, let's say, after 3 or 4 months, that would be depending on the will of the property manager slash landlord, because they might have selected you for a type of art, but they might not want other type of art to be in their space. That, yeah.
Are you considering food businesses or pop-up programs for the pop-up program if they are not cooking on site, but in a commercial kitchen and just using the space to sell the food directly to customers?
I can answer that one. We would consider it. Again, all of these long-term leases are going to be very case-by-case basis. So it really just depends on the strength of your application. And again, having all of the proper permitting in place or being prepared to acquire all of the proper permitting. So in this case, I would say you already need to have your commercial kitchen that you work out of and have all the correct licensing there, and be really prepared to get started on the permit application for the space as soon as it's acquired.
I think they were asking about the pop-up space.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misheard you. In that case, no, it's dependent on the permitting of the space and will only be permitted for retail, so we won't be able to serve ready to eat foods.
But we will be able to showcase shelf-stable foods. But it sounds like if you're moving from a commercial kitchen to the space, it's probably you're looking to ready to eat. But yeah, if you have shelf-stable packaged food, that would be that would work for the space.
I would like to know more about the rental support over the 2-year period of time. Will it be given one time, once, or monthly? Is there any rough estimation of the rental cost per square foot? Trying to get a ballpark idea of the cost involved.
Yeah, I can answer that. So when we accept a long-term applicant, we will work with you to find a space. And we also have a commercial broker on our team that would help negotiate the lease. So all we can say is that it's below market value. I can't say exactly how much it would be. But we do obviously try to work with the participant to find a rent that you can afford. And then here we've outlined $24,000 over 2 years. So the first month we would offer a stipend of $2,000 for the first 6 months. So if you negotiated a lease for $3,500 a month, then you know that you're paying $1,500 and we're paying you $2,000. And then that ladders down over time. So the last 6 months you would be receiving $500 a month and you would be paying $3,500 a month. So obviously we're never going to have you like commit to a situation that doesn't feel right for you, but you really have to understand like what do you feel like you could afford after our support finishes in 2 years. I hope that that's helpful.
In regards to a business plan, should our statistics, let's see, reflect population, median income and area demographics be based on Seattle or the sub-city we're interested in?
I would say that if you have specifics, the more specific you can get, the better. It's going to show how well prepared you are, how much you understand the market. If you do have stats for both Seattle as a whole and for the kind of specific neighborhood you're looking at, I would encourage using both of them. I would say you can't really be too thorough with a business plan. We're really going to look to see how prepared you are to take on a space and how well you understand what that is going to look like in the long term. You know, as we mentioned, most of our spaces are going to be centered in and around downtown. So kind of the retail corridor, Pioneer Square, Belltown. So if you have, you know, kind of specifics on that, those demographics and numbers, then we encourage you to include them for sure.
Is selling at art fairs and markets considered to be enough experience for the application?
Depends on which one, I would say, but usually yes, that would be considered as experience for sure.
And will the 2-location limit apply to art residencies?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
The 2-location limit, will that apply to artist residencies?
So we will have, I don't know if I'm answering the questions correctly, but we would have 2 concurrent residencies happening.
I think Sammy, they're asking, can they have 2 locations and still apply for an art residency? So for
Oh,
for the long term, we've said, you know, that they can't have 2 or more locations.
that's a good question. Gabriel, do you wanna chime on that one?
Yeah, because this is pretty new. Mostly folks that already have that kind of establishment are mostly going for the pop-ups or the long term. So we've never come across an artist that's already have 2 spaces. I'm wondering if these 2 spaces are like owned and run by them and they're just wanting this as an extension, or if they're saying that their art is already located at 2 spaces and they just want another space that's separate from what they're doing. So it just kind of depend on what they're explaining in the application and what the need is for the art residency itself within their career.
Yeah, and if you have any doubts, please send us an email and we'll try to answer that one. Just to make sure, just to understand what locations you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, some of these have been addressed, so just trying to find a fresh question.
Yeah, we have about 15 more minutes. We'll keep doing Q&A for that long, and then we'd like to introduce our past participants as well.
Can we propose more than one installation idea?
Yes, you will see though that on the application it is pretty specific to one, but there's some ways that you can like propose 2 ideas, but I would say the the committee review would prefer if you would keep it to 1 just because and make it strong rather than 2. I think you would have more chances to get selected if you keep it to 1 and really make a case of why this one particular project has an impact and why is it really compelling and the evaluation criteria on the slide. But yeah, I would say you can do that, but I would recommend to keep it to one and make it strong.
Yeah, we've actually seen some applicants, they just have so many ideas, and while they're wonderful, it felt too much for the community panel to really understand their proposal. So I would really encourage people to think about what's your most compelling proposal and focus on making it really thoughtful and thorough and explained well, instead of saying, I've got 5 ideas and I think I can do all of them, because a lot of times that might not be realistic, or it's hard for the panel to really see the full vision if you have so many different proposals happening.
Will there be an observation business time period for long-term businesses? What if the business didn't turn out to be as successful? Could it possibly be closed before the end of the contract or the lease?
We definitely understand that, we can't predict any specific outcomes, and circumstances sometimes arise that are really out of our control or out of your control as a participant. In the case of the long-term lease track, we are really asking for applicants that are fully prepared to take on a 3-year lease. Essentially, we want you to be ready for this opportunity without Seattle Restored support. And our financial support and technical assistance is really providing you with a little bit of a longer runway to bring your business to a successful working point. So if you are hesitant, if you don't feel like you can support the rent beyond the financial support that Seattle Restored provides, I would really recommend that you kind of reflect on your financials. We'll be looking at those very closely, just to see the financial viability of your business in a space. Again, these are all case-by-case basis that we will be reviewing these applications. And of course, over the course of your participation, it's going to be very individualized according to what's going on with your business. In sort of drastic circumstances, if it's really not going well, that would be a conversation that arises later on. We certainly wouldn't keep you in a space if it's going to bring you into, horrendous debt or ruin your business and force you into bankruptcy. But this is not, that's what the pop-up track is for, so that you have that kind of short, succinct time period to test your retail readiness, see if your business is ready to support a space on its own. So again, I would just reflect really carefully on your financial readiness to take on a space. As we know from the past few years, we really can't predict what's coming next in sort of the retail market or the real estate market in Seattle. All we can do is try our best to be as prepared as possible. So once again, approaching the long-term leasing pathway and application with just a really solid understanding of your current financial situation and what you can kind of anticipate over the next several years is important. I'll also just briefly mention the Office of Economic Development at Seattle, at the City of Seattle, offers their ABC program. It's the accounting, business, and consulting service. This is a free service that they provide. They work with different providers in areas of expertise like marketing, accounting. They've got some legal help as well. So I would encourage you to visit their website and take a look and see if any of that consulting would be helpful for you in preparing your application. We also have one contractor with the City of Seattle specifically who has several spaces open to provide application help. So if any of you are curious about accessing that service, please reach out to the Seattle Restored Gmail and we can connect you.
On the startup front, to qualify, is there a limit to private funds?
I would say no. We recognize that obviously the funding we provide is not going to be all the funding that you need. So we do actually ask to see what other sources of funding you are able to secure to help you with any track. So if you have private funds, that's great. If you have other grants, if you have other pathways to secure funding, it's great for us to hear about that as well.
Is there a situation where you would defer our application to the next cycle if you think the new area you announce is better for our business?
That is a possibility, in the case of the pop-ups, most likely, and potentially the long-term lease pathways. We might have a wait list of 1 or 2 applicants. If, because I know we're gonna get a lot of really strong applications. We always have, we've got such a wonderful creative business and artistic community in Seattle. So in the event that, we have a really hard time making that final decision and we have a few additional applicants that are really strong candidates as well, we will waitlist that application for the next round and then review it again in comparison with the next round of applicants. So it wouldn't necessarily be that you are waitlisted and rolled over and accepted, but we would hang on to your application for 1 more cycle to compare it to the next round of applicants.
Can you apply to the art installation pathway as a business? I'm an artist running a letterpress shop focused on poetry, creating and selling original artwork through my business. Just wondering if that makes sense for a window installation, or if you prefer that those are more branded towards individual artist names versus a business name.
You can apply. We've had a few participants in the past that were also a collective of artists playing for an art installation. You will, of course, be selected on how strong your proposal is, but being a collective or an organization does not disqualify you to apply.
But I'll just add really quick, with the collective applying to the art installation, we don't want to make sure that there is just 1 point of contact for that group. And also that you understand that it's just 1 location for that group and 1 stipend for that group. And so that stipend would just be split amongst however y'all decide how that gets split up, but just know that that's all like just 1 big package there for the collective.
Will applying for the Seattle Neighborhood Matching Fund negatively affect the application process for long-term business pathway?
Not applying, but if you were to receive that and also be approved for Seattle Restored, we would just want to discuss about how much the funding amount is there. We really want to ensure that the funding is distributed to as many different businesses in Seattle as possible. So we're trying to ensure that certain businesses don't get overfunded by the Office of Economic Development. Rather, if you're applying to Seattle Restored or the Tenant Improvement Fund or the Neighborhood Fund. So that's our concern, is that we really just want to make sure that the funding is distributed to as many businesses as possible. So I'm not sure of the timeline of that funding, so you could always reach out to us by email to ask a little more specifics around that question based on when you would be notified of acceptance to that program as well.
Does First Hill or Capitol Hill count as part of downtown for this program, or is it primarily the downtown core?
It is only downtown, so First Hill and Capitol Hill would not qualify.
I have a wellness business and would like a big open empty space. Is that a possibility?
Anything is a possibility. As we've mentioned before, this is going to be a very individualized process, particularly for the long-term lease pathway. So we're going to work with you to find a space that best suits your needs. So if that is a big open space, we're going to work with our commercial leasing team to find the best fit. We're not going to force you into a space that is not a good fit for your business. But having, I think it's helpful to have pretty specific needs to a certain extent. We want you to recognize also that part of this program is about reactivating space that has been vacant in downtown Seattle and in, our next neighborhoods. So there are going to be some spaces that are not perfect, that are going to require a little bit of work, a little bit of sweat equity. And we want you to be prepared that you're not going to get your dream space necessarily. It's really hard with the commercial real estate landscape as it is right now, to get everything that you're looking for in a space. So I recommend having a little bit of flexibility in what you're looking for, even with a pretty specific understanding of what you'd need. And once again, it's really just dependent on what is available when we're looking, what's going to fall into your price range, and what property owners are going to be willing and able to work with us on securing you a lease.
Okay, and we are at 6:45. So I think that wraps it up for the live Q&A.
Thank you, Vanessa. Again, if we weren't able to get to your question, please send us an email at seattlerestored@gmail.com and we will be sure to answer your questions. We're really excited to see everyone's applications. It's really amazing to see the variety and just the wealth of talent and drive and interest in this city. And it's really exciting to see this program continue and see more applications come in. So now we are going to introduce our panelists. So I will pass it over to Sammy.
Hi, so yes, we are entering our participant panel parts, and I have the pleasure to introduce Shruti, who is here with us. Shruti was a participant with Seattle Restored. You had both an art installation and you were participated also during our artist residency, and I just wanted to give you some room to to introduce yourself and to talk more about your experience during the program.
Hi, I participated in the artist residency program and also the window installation. Both I enjoyed a lot. The artist residency for specific, it gave us like the workspace and time for 6 long months. And it kind of helped me a lot for my work process. And I work larger, so I didn't have that space. Without the space that was provided by the Seattle Restored program, I wouldn't have made the works that I made there. And it's a significant body of work that I made there, and I'm kind of doing a show with the works that I made right there. So I'd highly recommend you apply for this program. It's a wonderful program, and the space is kind of open to public all the time. So it's kind of a nice twist. I love that because we always work in our space alone. So it's kind of a nice change from that part. And it's a shared space. That's also a wonderful thing. We don't have to be alone all the time in the studio. I really enjoyed working in a shared space with 2 other participants, 2 wonderful artists who are like, we became such a good friends later.
I'm glad. And I think I know you mentioned that you were also able to work on bigger and larger pieces, right? And I've seen them. They were so good. They were awesome.
Yeah. The space, without that space, I would not have imagined making them. So I went back to that series after a long time. So I've been wanting to make that for a long time and kind of holding back because I couldn't go larger, like you need that space. Sometimes space is kind of really important.
Yeah. And could you
Kind of
also,
work.
oh, sorry, my bad. And could you also share more about how was your experience with people, like just passing by and entering the space? How was that?
Yeah, so initially I thought like I was not sure like how it will be like when I'm working, and like generally I work without anyone around me, right? So initially I thought like I'm not sure how I'm going to react. So it's not like a crowd of people are coming all the time, but it's a nice thing to take a break and then talking to people. And then sometimes people are like they didn't realize that they will come into a space, they will get to see the works, and they will also get to see the maker of those works. And it was such a surprise for them. And many a time I've heard like it was in a space like where there are many offices and businesses and workspaces. So sometimes people used to come during their lunch break. And then many people mentioned that it was such a break and such a kind of a relaxing time for them to just come out of the office and then just visit our studio and then talk to us and then see our works. It's kind of have been relaxing for them.
Thank you. Thank you so
And
much.
yeah, I also will mention I met many tourists because it was in that space. So it's not just people from around our space. It's not just people from Seattle. So I met many tourists, and there was at one time a film festival was happening. So like many people from different countries also came and visit the space. It was really cool.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing, Shruti. And I guess I have one last question. Do you have any shows or artist talk that are coming up, or is there any way people can see your work as well?
Yeah, I'm having a solo show at Gallery 110. That opened May 2nd and will be up until June 1st. And this Sunday, I'm having an artist talk at 10 a.m. So if you're around, join me.
Thank you, Shruti. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your experience.
All right, and then next up we have Tak, who actually I met on my very first day working with Seattle Restored. Was the day that he got keys to his space. So special place in my heart for Mixed Pantry for sure. It's been such a pleasure to see that space and the business grow and evolve. They've put on some really fun events. They've hosted some really cool tastings. So I'll leave it to Tak to talk a little bit more about his experience.
Sure. Thanks, Mia. My name's Tak. Thanks for the introduction. I started doing the Seattle Restore program. I think I started December 2022. That feels so long ago. That's crazy. But yeah, that's the December. That December is the time that we got the key. And during the Seattle Restore time, we operated a store called Hyphen Asian Food and Culture. During the pop-up period, we had an all 9-month. Thanks to the Seattle Restored program support, we were able to kind of fail a lot, experiment, right? Because you don't have to worry too much about the operational costs. Are we going to be making enough money to pay rent for utilities, all these different things? So that means you have a little bit more extra wiggle room. My store is Asian specialty food store. That's not really like really well-established category of the retail store. So we didn't even know if that was even a successful business model in this city. So this was absolutely perfect opportunity for us. So we got the space and we started doing a bunch of different, different soy sauce, vinegar, all these different things coming in. We built our furniture and started very, very, very small. And then, over the course of about 8 or 9 months, we looked at how things are moving and we adjusted. And after the pop-up period is fully over, I closed down for about 2.5 months, but I re-signed for the 5-year lease at the same exact spot and reopened a new store called Mixed Pantry. And I've been here for about a half year and a few weeks now. And it's been going well.
Yes, congratulations. It's really exciting to see what you're doing. And so since your time initially with Seattle Restored, and for those of you who are here who are interested in applying, recognizing that some things have changed about our programming since Tak first started, what would you say was kind of the biggest surprise for you as you began operating in that space?
The biggest surprise is
biggest experience.
I think my personal biggest surprise is that how much I still have things to do when I'm here. Like I thought that, if you go to a random store and everything, maybe you might not see anybody, actively doing anything all the time. But like as a small business owner, you're constantly working. I'm always here. I'm always thinking about the work. I thought it was going to be a little bit more easygoing, to be very honest. So that I was definitely naive for sure. But clearly I loved it, so that's why I decided to keep going at it. So that's really wonderful. But I prior to this, I never really had a small business. I worked for a big company as a manager. Just never really had a chance to really start something from nothing like this. So that was probably the biggest surprise for me. The other thing that really pleasantly surprised me is how much community really cared about these small businesses that pop up in your neighborhood. So within a month or so, like so many people showed up. Like this place was completely empty for such a long time. Thank God you guys are here. What are you guys doing? I'm interested, right? So that type of communication and like connection with the local folks, it's not something that I actually expected. I thought it was going to be really quiet, to be very honest. I wasn't really sure what to expect, right? So, but yeah, those really pleasant local folks just coming in, saying hello. They might not buy anything, but still, they're interested in supporting you. They want to get to know you, know your story, all these different things. So that was another extremely big surprise that I had no idea.
Very cool. That's, yeah, so helpful to hear. And then we want to leave a little bit of time for you two to answer some questions. So I will echo Sammy if you want to announce any events that you have coming up that folks should hear about. And then just really quick for both of you, if you want to drop that information in the chat so people can see it as well before we head out. Oh, sorry. Did any announcement?
You've got to talk about the soy sauce tastings. Come on.
What am I supposed to talk about?
I
Sorry.
said, talk about your soy sauce tasting events and then your first Thursdays.
Oh, sure. I mean, like we do walking tasting all the time, but yeah, like our store is Asian specialty food store. Our mission is to lowering the barrier to exploring Asian flavors. So if it's bottled or jarred item in the store, I usually give a bunch of samples to anybody that comes into the store. It is only carrying the items that's imported from Asia or created by APA communities, and we're carving out the space to really highlight and feature some of the local talents here. But also we want to work with the national CPG brands, that's AAPI. And also using that connection, we want to actually launch some of the local AAPI CPG brands to the national level as well. So, through the whole process, we really learn how much we really love tasting things side by side, right? I'm a former food scientist. I got a master's degree from food science and tech department from Oregon State. One of the things that we used to do a lot in the sensory lab was to have like 10 different beer or like a salsa or potato salad or whatever that might be. And just do the side-by-side comparison, and it's really dig in deep into what you're really tasting, which one you like. Those are the type of stuff that we do. So if any of you is interested in doing something like that, please show up. We have event on 18th from 11 to 3 actually. So if you are check out the former Seattle Restore space, please come check us out on Saturday morning.
Thank you. And
Yeah,
Vanessa
thanks.
and Sabrina, do you have any questions from the audience for our panelists?
I haven't seen any more come in.
I think maybe just around safety, if you have any tips or anything about how to navigate safety in downtown.
Pak or Shruti, do you have any experience with that and your thoughts on being in a downtown location?
Yeah, it's a little tricky. So I avoid the night times. So I generally stayed like I used to go early in the morning and stayed until the evening. So that would be my advice. And like be safe, like what safe means to you.
Yeah, I want to echo the same sentiment here. So my store is in the middle of the Bell Town. It's on the First and Bell. At the nighttime during the winter, it can be kind of hairy. So we are very careful, but at the same time, all of the business owners kind of look out for each other. And there's also the downtown ambassador that we can always call, and the support within the neighborhood is actually really nice. But you do have to watch out for your own safety here and there. It's safe.
We did really quickly just get one question. How often do Seattle Restored participants interact and support one another's businesses?
Is this a residency question or like business
I
question?
think it's just general, like any interactions or connections you've made through the program.
Yeah, like my studio mates were so encouraging, and they asked me to make art prints, which I never made before. So it was like an initiative that came from my studio mates, and I sold many art prints after that.
Yeah, and for us, for the Mixed Pantry side, we hosted multiple Seattle Restored artists to be popping up during the Belltown Art Walk. And I personally go to a different art gallery like Fishbowl by Raya and multiple different locations. Just gonna go hang out and meet with people. I also love Josh's punk rock flea market quite a bit. That's also another space that I kind of scout to see if there are any cool artists out there. So that's part of the reason that I go there. But all the Seattle Restore participants are super cool, talented folks. You will probably want to go check them out. So you will naturally be interacting with these folks.
Yeah, I'll add to that, like Downtown Artwork program, they also promoted us and like very supportive.
Yeah, I think that's the lesson we learned too through the program is that we want to get participants together more because there's certain things we can share from our program management perspective, but we know that the information that participants can share with each other is just so hugely valuable. And you can talk about your challenges and wins and really share with each other and learn from each other. So we do have there will be opportunities for people to gather and have workshops and then also just general socializing and networking sessions because it's just amazing kind of how you can be inspired by others and push yourself when you hear from others and others' experiences. So we definitely want people to feel connected to other participants in the program. Well, it looks like we're at 7:02. Shruti or Tak, is there anything you want to add before we wrap up the night?
Well, I'd like to sum up, like it's a wonderful program. You're getting a nice opportunity to kind of have your workspace and go larger if you want, like depending on what kind of work you make, and in a shared space, and you're kind of working with like-minded people. So I think overall it's kind of a winner. I hope you get to participate in this program. You get to at least apply, and best wishes for all of you.
Yeah, I want to echo the same sentiment. This is just such a wonderful program. Without the Seattle Restore program, there was no way that we could have started this business whatsoever. Like there's just simply zero chance. And the other thing is that once you get connected to this, good business network, there's like plenty of other businesses that's out there and doing really cool stuff. And then you, by being a part of Seattle Restored, you're now part of that network in a way. And you are a little bit closer to all the other participants and in the good network too. So there's no the negative in this particular program, honestly. Like probably the only thing that's going to cost you is just your time. So definitely give it a shot. This is a wonderful opportunity where you're allowed to actually make mistakes as adults. That there are not that many opportunities like that when you're grown up, right? So I highly, highly encourage everybody to really give this a shot. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone that was here tonight and stayed till the end. We'll be sharing out this recording as well, so you can always go back and check out all the details through the recording as well. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.